everyone, and welcome back to episode 2 of Columbia City, our project based on Seattle, Washington. So right now we are expanding the road layout of the downtown area. So this episode is going to be really 3 main things that we're going to be working on. First of all, sort of expanding the road layout like we are right now, try to make it look realistic in terms of the different grid styles we use and how they transition from one avenue to another. We're also going to be redoing that Sunken Highway that looks so horrific. We're going to be putting in place a much simpler Sunken Highway, and it's only going to go through the downtown, and then it's going to be elevated and ground level, and yeah, you'll see that. And then also, we're going to start working on the general locations of the public transit lines, meaning Metro Overhaul Mod, Light Rail, meaning, tram, and, well, not bus yet, because we've just got roads to do that on. And then also a very short little monorail line, like Seattle's got. So, obviously we started off the episode working on some road layouts, but now we're going to jump over here to the Sunken Highway. So as I showed you last episode, Seattle's got a sunken freeway that's pretty complicated, and I went for something extremely complicated at first, but then I realized the way that City Skylines mechanics work, it wouldn't really work like that. I wouldn't be able to just put that into my city and just have it look totally great. It would take a lot more, and it might not even be possible, just because the way that highway networks work together with nodes and stuff. But yeah, so what we're doing instead is we've just got this, central highway in the middle, and then we have sort of roads on either side that are one way, so it's like a sunken highway, roads on either side, and then the entrance ramps are every once in a while from those one-way roads, if that makes sense. So, I think this does look really good. The main problem with it is, so these retaining walls are some of the newer ones, the networks by Lost Gecko, I'm 99% sure, and the only problem with them is that their LODs are really, really bright, as in bright white when you zoom out, and you'll see a little later, because I keep zooming in and out, like, oh, is this just like the textures of the, the actual terrain glitching, or what? And then I realized, actually, no, when I replace the retaining walls with ones that are different materials, like the brick ones, it sort of is fine, but these have a really bright LOD. Alright, so I want to show a build that was made by somebody named Greyflame, who sent me some screenshots on Twitter a while ago. So, if you don't know, recently I've been showing off stuff that's built by you guys. You send me some screenshots on Twitter, and I'll put them in videos. So yeah, if you want your builds to be showcased in a video, just send me a Twitter DM with an image upload link, not just the actual Twitter image upload, because the quality is really bad, but like Imgur or something, and I'll download the images and put them in a video. So okay, Greyflame's working on a Pacific Northwest inspired project, and Greyflame's also made some really awesome Pacific Northwest assets and maps as well in the past that you definitely should check out. But this is an amazing project. I'm really loving it. So it's a more rural Pacific Northwest build, obviously, than Columbia City is. Columbia City's very urban, but it's got some really cool industrial, like some bulk processing stuff going on. I really love this screenshot of this little rural town. I don't know what that utility pole is there, but it looks really awesome, and just all the conifers around are just excellent. And then yeah, so there's also this final shot of these like water basins. I'm really not sure what this is supposed to be, like some sort of marsh or something, but it's got roads going around. It looks really cool. So really awesome Pacific Northwest builds that Greyflame's got going. So yeah, really awesome job. I'm definitely gonna hopefully see more screenshots from that in the future. So if you want me to show your screenshots in a video, just send me a Twitter DM with an upload, and I will, I'll put them in a video. So nothing interesting is really going on in games, so I figure we'll talk about some other stuff. So the video that's going to be out for patrons this week is actually going to be the Calavera Beach video that I put up for patrons probably like a month or two ago, and that's the most recent episode of Calavera Beach that hasn't been up on the channel, hasn't gone out on the channel yet. But it's going to have updated audio, so, I mean, you've probably seen it if you're a patron already, but I'm uploading it because obviously I've changed the way Patreon rewards work, and I have to work through some of the old videos that are up on Patreon, which is really just 2, so, yeah, we'll manage. But, yeah, so no new video for patrons this week, but that won't last. Usually we're going to have a new video out, obviously, so if you're confused about this at all, just watch the last episode of Columbia City, episode 1. I sort of explained the new way Patreon rewards are working, just so that I'm able to keep up with the series a lot better and have, more relevant commentary in videos. So yeah, no new video for Patreon for patrons this week, but you get access to Calavera Beach from before. But once again, obviously, I'm gonna redo the voiceover for that because it's sort of irrelevant now. And I'll probably also include some Google Earth Studio, because when I made that initially, there was no Google Earth Studio. So if you want some nice California Google Earth Studio footage, then you're gonna want to check that out. So yeah, Patreon is in the description. But yeah, I mean, what else? So, okay, over here, I mean, we're working on the other side of the freeway, and I'm continuing the square grid. So Seattle's got like a lot of square grids essentially everywhere near downtown. There are deviations from them as well. So I add like a bunch of deviations, like these roads that are at angles. But overall, it's mostly just a square grid near downtown. And Pacific Northwest cities, well, specifically like Seattle and Portland, have this sort of road layout. And from what I know, it's essentially to make the city a lot more walkable. So you don't have ridiculously long, sprawly blocks. Instead, you have these short blocks that are a lot more manageable for pedestrians, and it makes cars go a lot slower because they're hitting intersections a lot more often, so they get less comfortable. And that's the general idea of why these exist. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I really like it. I like the square grids. I haven't really built square grids ever before that I know of. So like doing this on a large scale here is pretty awesome, but that's only going to be in the city center. Once we move out further, probably the only square grids that we're going to have in the city are going to be the ones that you see in this video and obviously the last video. But moving forward, we're going to have just normal grids and other stuff, obviously, once we move into the mountains. And it's not going to be as grid-like as like Salt Lake City or something, but it'll be a same sort of type of thing you see in Seattle. So yeah. Okay, so the freeway here obviously turns from a sunken freeway into like a hybrid between elevated and ground, which is sort of weird, and I don't really know why I did it, but it sort of looks cool, and I want to do some fun stuff with trees and vegetation here, which would be a little bit less possible without this freeway being elevated. Like I want to put bushes like under the actual freeway. So yeah, and then also so that we have this this on-ramp, off-ramp complex here with this big road that goes sort of over the freeway, which I think is pretty cool. It's like a cool bypass, and like it curves around. I think it looks really awesome. And obviously we've got this like one-way road that is continuing to go like along the freeway. It doesn't really stop. And you see I'm trying to mess with this like tunnel here. I don't end up getting it to work, so I end up removing it, I believe. But there are a lot, like Seattle's very tunnel heavy for a city. There are a bunch of tunnels in like somewhere like San Francisco, but Seattle is really heavy on the tunnels, which I find really cool because you're able to work around a lot of crazy infrastructure complications with tunnels. I'm just surprised because obviously Seattle is very earthquake prone, so I know a lot of cities that are earthquake prone are a little bit lighter on tunnels, but I don't know, maybe that's sort of a myth, but I'm no expert. Anyway, so yeah, expanding the grid. This is extremely exciting, as you can see. It gets a little bit weird over here because I need to connect these roads that we're going that are two. So obviously I've got mostly one-way roads here that are going what would be sort of east-west, but then the north-south roads are two-way roads, and that's sort of like avenues or whatever. Like say you'd find something like that in New York, but that's what I'm doing here. It gets a little bit complicated when the grid switches a little bit, because then what you would have is like what you'd think of as the non-avenue roads are what were the avenues on the other blocks, and it gets a little bit confusing unless you you change the grid a lot. So I don't know. We're gonna transition away from this square grid style, as I said. But as you can see, there are a lot of different deviations from it with these avenues that are at really weird angles, and that's what you see a lot of the time. That's how the grids are broken up in American cities, even in like New York, which is obviously notorious for having ridiculous grids. It gets broken up by different avenues, because obviously the whole city wasn't like planned in one shot. It was a lot more organic than that, and that's sort of what I'm trying to go for. And then you have Salt Lake City, which is just absolutely ridiculous. Just grids everywhere. Yeah. This Seattle's a lot less like that. There are a lot of different deviations from the different styles of grids in Seattle, which I think is pretty cool, because it really captures the general feel of like an American city with lots of grids, which I've sort of been missing, because I mean, New Windsor is obviously not gridded. It doesn't have grids at all, essentially. Only in some suburbs, but otherwise it is just a massive complex of just ridiculous road networks that make no sense, but that's how New England works. But obviously Seattle's a lot different, so it's actually been a lot of fun to work with all of this different infrastructure. And I mean, that was really why I started the series. Like, I wanted to work with infrastructure because I've been sort of deprived of that for a while. I've been working on New Windsor, which is not very infrastructure heavy. It's mostly, honestly, the main point of New Windsor is just realistic graphics at this point. Like, it just looks really good, because the autumn trees and everything. But it's not as realistic in terms of the layout, which I'm not a huge fan of. Like, I didn't plan it out enough early on, and that's why I'm doing that here. Like, New Windsor sort of expanded organically, which is sort of good for a New England city, but it went a little bit overboard, as I mentioned in the last episode. And, I wanted to go for something a lot more, something that's a lot better planned out, with transit networks that are completely established before I really expand the city, and I know exactly where the transit networks are going to go. I know we're going to have 2 light rail networks. We're going to have, lines. We're going to have 2 main metro overhaul mod lines, and we're going to have some heavy rail that comes into downtown, and then maybe some stations at the periphery, but not much really. And then obviously we'll have Amtrak coming into downtown. But overall, I mean, the point is I want to know what the whole city is going to look like in terms of its transit network, at least the transit network, before I expand it, because like figuring that out later, you end up building these ridiculous like webs of transit networks that make no sense for an actual city. That was a really long, drawn-out rant. Sorry about that. Alright, so we're working on this interchange here that we worked on in the last episode. I mean, that was sort of the main portion of last episode. But here we're going to be trying to, I mean, as you can see, I've expanded these avenues, the one-way roads that go along the sides of the freeway. And we're going to connect them up on the other side, as you can see. So I've had one crossover, so they're going to cross and end up on the inland side of the freeway. And they're going to connect. I don't actually connect them, though, in this episode, but just wanted to get the baseline there. And the pillars for the actual interchange are still completely messed up, but I will fix that, don't worry. Fortunately, No Pillars is not really misbehaving, so it's just a matter of replacing the pillars and doing it once. They won't mess up more than really they have right now. So we should be fine with that. And then there's also this avenue here that goes over another avenue towards downtown. The terrain heights were just so ridiculous that it didn't make sense to have an intersection there. So there's that. And then in terms of bike infrastructure, I'm using a lot of the bike avenues and bike roads from Sea Game World from the workshop, which I showed you last episode. And they're really cool. But I will definitely be choosing other, like, these are not necessarily all of the avenues that are going to have the bike infrastructure. It might be different avenues, we might change it in the future, but there will be a pretty good amount of bike infrastructure going throughout the city, north, south, east, west. And I do want to build, you know, like, lots and lots of trails along the shoreline when we sort of get to that. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out, like, how to add these avenues, like, under the interchange and what's going to happen here. And I'm just, like, placing the avenues and having them go under the interchange just, like, so that we know they're there, but that might change later. Remember, this is just a general baseline of the infrastructure that we're going to have around here, just so that I'm able to work with the public transit, get the light rail lines, just sort of generally planned. Which we don't really finish. You see, I'm adding this monorail line over here, and the idea is to put this, because we are going to place the Space Needle, I want to place it on the right side of the skyline when you're looking from the water, rather than the left side, because it's on the left side in Seattle. But the problem is on the right side, that's where the cargo harbor is supposed to be, so I don't know. I mean, we'll have to see. Maybe I'll end up just placing it way out of the city as well. That could be another thing, but I have no idea what we're going to do. But yeah, that light rail, or the monorail line rather, might be temporary, who knows. Also, I'm connecting the highway up that intersects with the main highway up to the road that goes along the shoreline that we built at the beginning of last episode, the double-decker road. And that's going to be sort of an actual freeway that sort of goes through there, and it's really, really stupid, but it exists. And it's actually going to end up, you know, turning into a big highway once we get over to the peninsula over there, and it's going to cross on a pretty big bridge, so that's going to be the highway that does that. And then, you know, I figured out that sort of made a lot of sense to do that. So we're nearing the end of the time lapse. I'm going to hop in game and show you what I've planned out for the light rail and metro networks, which I didn't really build in the actual video, but yeah, I'll show you what I got planned out. Alright, so we're here in-game. Looks very glitchy, but it's fine, don't worry. I want to show you what we did this episode, and then look at what we're probably going to end up doing for the transit lines. So obviously we've got the big interchange, we worked around here. We have this, like, these avenues that go sort of around it, or like one-way roads. And the plan is to have these connect up to this road in the future. And I'm possibly interested in... so I'm going to probably get rid of this rail, or this light rail line here, this road that goes this way, because that is light rail right now. But I think it's better to have light rail be sort of right here on the shoreline in some capacity instead, because we've got like a metro line that sort of goes through here in the first place. But there is a chance we still keep some light rail going through that way. But yeah, so in terms of light rail lines, no matter what, we're going to probably just have a line that goes from about here to this suburb over here. And it's probably going to be either the shoreline or inlands. I haven't really decided yet, but I've got the infrastructure for both of those set up, and I've got this like light rail bus station right here that I tried to set up, but it didn't really work out, so we'll end up doing that in the next episode, hopefully. We don't have much more infrastructure work to do near downtown before we actually get started, like, placing buildings. Hopefully we're able to start placing buildings next episode. I'd like to get the skyline done. But I want to make sure our transit's fully done in downtown at least, so that we know what's going on. Okay, so let's see. So yeah, light rail is going to go that way, and then we've also got this road that's going up this way. And I know this looks a little bit weird, but that happens in cities, so there's that. So yeah, the grid's going to shift a little bit, but overall stay similar. We've got mostly just square grids here, but other than this is probably where the square grids end. It's going to get a little bit more complicated and ridiculous moving forward. We'll have the grids sort of shift at every avenue and stuff like that. It'll look pretty cool. This will be relatively gritty here, though. Lots of grids. Okay. So subways. I'm still really not sure how much I like the subway system that I'm planning here, but it's what we've got. Please. Okay. So we've got these two lines here. One goes sort of this way, and you see they crisscross. So the one that's on the top there goes around that way, and then up here, because remember, I had this going as like a U shape before, but it looked really weird, and like I don't know why that would be the line that connects. It makes a lot more sense to have this go this way, and then having this go sort of this way over here, and then down through this suburb. It'll probably like go through, I mean, this area over here. I mean, so the plan is to probably have the Space Needle here, because we're actually going to place the Space Needle. And I mean, I don't know. We'll probably have the Space Needle here, because like right now I've set up a light rail, or a monorail line rather. The monorail is going to be some stupid little line that goes from downtown to the Space Needle, sort of like in Seattle. But there's another way we could do it. We could have the Space Needle over here, but I feel like having it on like the left side of the skyline makes it a little bit too much like Seattle, so I want to put it over here instead. But it's sort of a weird spot, because the plan was to have this sort of be the harbor for cargo, so I'm not sure if that's a very good idea. We're gonna have to see. I don't know where we're gonna end up putting it exactly, but yes, the monorail line is definitely subject to change, and it's really stupid right now. But I mean, that's sort of generally what we've got. So we've got like a subway system that's gonna go this way, like a metro line. It'll probably end up being above ground at some point as well. And we'll have just sort of generic subway trains for that. And then we've also got a line that's going to go up this way and then down here. And then for light rail, we've got a line that's going to terminate right here and then go like all the way over to here and go through downtown. And I mean, at least that's the plan, because remember, we've got this metro line that goes up here, so this area is going to be pretty well served. And then we're going to have... I mean, yeah, that's essentially it. Oh, yeah, this light rail line that goes this way as well. So if we have a metro that goes along the shoreline, we'll have something that... I mean, it's not going to go ultra far, because this isn't going to be very dense. I might build, like, sort of another sort of city over here, like Bellevue in Washington. But that's definitely far in the future. And then obviously we have to get heavy rail going, and the plan is to put heavy rail in this little corridor under here, Sunken. So that is the plan, at least. And I mean, I think before we actually start the actual downtown, I think it would probably be a good idea to get the heavy rail in there and get the general, I mean, I think we've got the metro layout down for the subway. I mean, this looks a little bit weird, this crisscrossing, but it looks weirder having it be a U shape and then another sort of U shape. So I think it's more rational to have this go down here and this go over here. So there is that. And then other than that, I mean, I think next episode we're probably going to be able to get the actual downtown started with actual skyscrapers. We just do have a little bit more infrastructure work to do, and obviously this is a complete mess still, and I have not gotten the pillars right, and I keep messing with them and stuff, and it's still a complete mess, but we know where everything is, and that's really what matters. So yeah, we've got a huge project ahead of us, but I think we're gonna manage. I think this is gonna be an awesome project once we actually get the general layout of the downtown done, and we get a feel for how much detail we really want to add within the city. Anyway, we're at the end of the video. Hopefully you all enjoyed. If you did, make sure to leave a like and, you know, really lets me know that you want to see more Columbia City videos. Subscribe if you're new around here. Hit the bell icon. You know the deal. You don't want to miss any of these videos. This is going to be an awesome series. You can check out my Patreon in the description. There's no new video this week for patrons, but it's going to be the old Calavera Beach video from a couple months ago with updated audio. I explained that earlier on in the episode. You can also follow me on Twitter, where I post really stupid stuff I find. I also like repost other City Skylines creators, like modders and everybody. Go over there. If you follow me on Instagram for awesome screenshots of stuff I build, you don't want to miss it. But yeah, that's about it. Hopefully you all enjoyed, and I will see you next time.